Hi everyone, my name is Glenda with SureFit Designs, and today I'm going to talk about this topic called Help, My Pattern Doesn't Fit Me. And you know, that doesn't happen very frequently, but every now and again I will get a customer calling me or emailing me saying, my pattern's too tight, or on the other hand, my pattern's too loose. And you know, a lot of variables come into play when you draw off and sew up your muslin, and of course when you put it on. And so today we're going to talk about those variables and how to reduce the issues so that you can get one of the best fits possible. And we all know that that is possible with SureFit Designs. The very first thing that, of course, is the important variable is making sure you have taken accurate measurements. Now, when you're doing your measurements, of course you want to be doing them over top of your appropriate foundation garments. And you never want to have the tape measure so tight that you're bulging on either side of it. But on the other hand, you don't want it so loose that, of course, it would be falling off your body. So it's just comfortable. And there are a lot of helps with SureFit Designs. That there's the how-to DVD, and each of the major kits have at the beginning instructional pages with really clear illustrations on how to take your measurements. So that's variable number one, and a very important one. All right, now you take your measurements and you start drawing off your personalized body blueprint. And I'm just going to reference the pants pattern for this particular demonstration. When you mark in your measurement dots, you must be very careful where you are marking. I know some of these dots are close together, and so, you know, if you're a 48 hip, make sure that that is the dot that you are marking in. Now, once again, I am drawing here on or with a very fat colored pen, and I've done it in bright blue so that you can see exactly for this demonstration. But at home, please make sure you use a pencil. That's the smallest dot that you're going to get. And also, you'll notice that I am drawing on the wall, and at home you need to be working on a flat surface. So marking in your dots accurately is the second variable. And then, once you have got all of your dots marked in place, and of course you have joined all of your dots together with the designing stylus, then before you add seam allowances, this is a really important double check that you can do. And if you've already got your seam allowances on, that's fine, but you can always go back to your pattern that you've drawn off and do this. So we are going to double check the widths that the pattern gave you. So let's take this pants pattern as an example. You'll notice that I'm pointing to the waistline here, and there is a waist fitting dart in both the front and the back of the pants. Now, when you measure the waistline that the pattern gave you, to measure minus the dart space, because that ultimately would be sewn out. So you're going to measure from center front to the side of the dart, and then scoot the tape measure over, eliminating that dart, and measure to the side waist point. Then take that measurement location and pull it over to the back of the pants and measure from the side waist point to the side of the dart, and then scoot that tape measure over as if you were eliminating that dart or sewing it out, and measure to the center back waist point. Now you've added together the front and the back at the waistline, and all you do is fold your tape measure double, and that comes up with your finished amount that your pants pattern gave you. Now, as an example, the Pants Master pattern gives you anywhere between 1/4 to 3/8 inches of ease at the waistline. And that's what your pattern should give you. So if you've ended up with a measurement that is your waist plus 1 inch, you know you either haven't measured accurately or you have drawn your dots too wide, and you can make adjustments to that right now and changes to it. Another area that I want you to measure is the hip line. So once again, all that you would do is measure from center front to the hip level, or the full hip dot area, and then pick that up at the side hip line on the back of the pants and go to the center back. You've now added these two dimensions together, and when you double this, that's going to give you your hip measurement plus ease. And so I would like to talk about this ease for a moment, and I will again use this pants pattern as an example. This pants pattern gives you your hip measurement plus 2 inches of ease. Now that's in the smaller size ranges. As your size, or your hip size, gets larger, the ease will increase to about 2 1/4 to 2 3/8, and in the larger sizes it's going to go up to about 2 1/2 inches of ease. Now you need to say to yourself, do I like that amount of ease? So now let's take a look at the pants that I'm wearing in this demonstration. These pants are straight out of the box, and I have done no significant changes to them. I haven't put in a fly front, and all I've done is added a zipper in the side seam. Now, when I pinch up these side seams right here, I am pinching up a 1/2 inch on each side, and you can tell that a 1/2 inch pinch is not very much. 1/2 inch here, 1/2 inch in the back equals 1 inch. Same thing on the other side. You add that together and you're going to end up with 2 inches of ease in your total hip circumference. Now, some of you, when you put on a pair of pants that has only 2 inches of ease, you're going to say to me, Glenda, this feels skin tight. And that's because you like wearing your pants looser. Others of you will put on a pair of pants that has 2 inches of ease and say it feels just great. And so the amount of ease that the SureFit Designs patterns give you, well, that's what I'm calling a standard amount, but you can change that variable. So if you know that you like to have 3 inches of ease in your hip line, well then you are going to need to come out 1 more measurement dot. But that is a good thing to check at this point in time and before you go on. So then the next variable that we want to make sure is that when you add your seam allowances, that they are in fact 5/8 of an inch. Now I'm going to add some seam allowances here, and again I'm going to do this in red, but when you're at home you will be doing this with a pencil. Now you'll notice that I put the edge of the pen or pencil next to the slot that is nearest the outside edge of the designing stylus, because this space right there is 5/8 of an inch. And I'll do the same thing on the hip line here. All right, now of course you're going to do that all the way around. Then what I suggest that you do is come back with a seam gauge and just spot check that that seam allowance actually is 5/8 of an inch. Because I know from experience that the stylus can slip and maybe your seam allowance gets a little on the skinny side. I also know from first-hand experience in the fitting classes that I do that this seam allowance can end up being far wider than what was intended, and it's just because the stylus slips or maybe not quite enough attention to when you are drawing that seam allowance in place. So I really recommend spot checking that your seam allowance widths are accurate in various spots on your pattern. Then the next thing, of course, is cutting your pattern out to do your first test fit. And whether you're using a rotary cutter or a pair of scissors, please make sure that you are cutting exactly on this cutting line. Again, from experience, I know that that can get broader or skinnier in that whole cutting process. Then we take the cut fabric and you go to your sewing machine and start sewing it up. Well, here's another one of those variables where it can really change the dimension of your finished garment. In my fitting classes, I know that I always say, okay, please sew accurately with a 5/8 inch seam allowance. And when the garment is done, I'll look at these seams and I can tell that some of them, those seam allowances are 3/8 of an inch wide, and sometimes they're 3/4 of an inch wide. And so if you have any challenges at all keeping that seam exactly at 5/8, please use a little piece of blue tape on your sewing machine and mark that width, mark that dimension, so that you have a visual guideline to run your fabric by. So what I'm going to recommend is that you go to the SureFit Designs Learning Center and go directly to the video library, where you're going to see departments on pants fitting, dress fitting, shirt fitting. But when you're working on a specific project, there are a tremendous number of complimentary videos there that give you even more in-depth help with getting the pattern to fit you exactly the way you want it to. So let's review the important points. Number 1, take accurate personal measurements. Number 2, mark your measurement dots accurately when you're drawing your personal pattern. Number 3, measure the pattern afterward for the given amount of wearing ease. Number 4, add accurate 5/8 inch seam allowances. Number 5, when you're cutting your fabric, make sure that you cut accurately. And number 6, sew with accurate 5/8 inch seam allowances. So while you're working on your pattern, why don't you take a few minutes to join the SureFit Designs community? You can do that by going to surefitdesigns.com and signing up for the newsletter. And when you do, there are free gifts to get you started. And if you happen to be watching this in YouTube, please make sure that you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is SureFit Designs. You know, we have over 300 videos on fitting, designing, and sewing, and all for your benefit. Thank you so much for watching, and please stay and watch more.